Some Republicans are throwing another lawsuit at President Biden's immigration reform plans. 20 Republican-led states are trying to stop the new policy that creates a way for 30,000 migrants from 4 countries to legally enter the U.S. each month. President Biden announced the change earlier this month as part of his revamped strategy to deter illegal border crossings. The program allows eligible migrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela to live and work in the U.S. legally under a policy known as humanitarian parole. The lawsuit argues the policy isn't meant to be used that widely. CBS News immigration reporter Camilo Montoya Galvez joins me now. Camilo, I want to use this lawsuit as a way to bank shot to a question about the chances for bipartisanship. We now have a split Congress, and there are senators of both parties working through to find common ground on border security and immigration policy. But as we see with this set of lawsuits, even something that was considered a kind of middle-of-the-road policy is being challenged. So does that give us some indication of the atmosphere for anything that might come out of any kind of bipartisan conversation?
Good evening, John. That is a critical question regarding this debate and the possibility of Congress updating the outdated U.S. immigration system. And that's because the lawsuit that you referenced is really a symptom of the broader problem at play here, and that is that Congress has not made any significant updates and changes to the U.S. immigration system since the 1990s, and because of that, Republican and Democratic administrations have taken unilateral action and have adopted unilateral policies on this issue in the meantime. And now we find ourselves in a situation where all of these executive actions are challenged in federal court, or at least most of them. During the Trump administration, most of President Trump's policies on immigration were challenged by Democratic-led states and groups like the American Civil Liberties Union. And now we're finding ourselves in a situation where most of President Biden's major immigration and border policy changes are challenged by Texas and other Republican-led states, often successfully. The Texas and other states have really successfully derailed the president's immigration agenda in many ways. The Supreme Court, as you know, has required the Biden administration to continue this policy known as Title 42 to expel migrants to Mexico on public health grounds. And so, we saw in the last Congress, John, that a round of negotiations between Senators Sinema of Arizona and Tillis of North Carolina collapsed because lawmakers could not reach an agreement that would exchange the legalization of certain undocumented immigrants, such as dreamers who arrived here as children, with certain border security measures. And that really has been the case now for more than 2 decades. So, again, I think we will continue to see unilateral action on this issue, John. And we saw that 3 weeks ago with President Biden announcing that he was going to essentially pair increased expulsions of migrants who enter the country illegally with expanded legal opportunities for others to come to the U.S. because Congress had not come to any sort of compromise on this issue.
Yeah, it's a fascinating push and pull between unilateral action and trying to get any bipartisan action, the way in which they make each other more difficult. Let me switch now, Camilo, to Arizona's Democratic governor, Katie Hobbs. She says she will continue with the controversial Republican policy of sending migrants to other states. She says it would be more coordinated and cost-effective than the way it was done before. But give us a sense of, this is a Democratic governor essentially doing what Democrats denounced when it was done by Republicans.
Yeah, I think the main distinction here, John, is about intent and purpose. Under the previous Republican governor of Arizona, the state was sending buses of migrants to Washington, D.C. to protest and repudiate and criticize the Biden administration's immigration agenda. Just like Governor Abbott is still sending buses to Washington, D.C., New York City, Chicago, and Philadelphia to again criticize the Biden administration for its handling of this unprecedented crisis along the U.S.-Mexico border. But the current administration, the Democratic administration in Arizona now, is saying that they will continue this operation to alleviate overcrowding in shelters in local Arizona communities that are struggling right now to receive many of these migrants. They've noted that, after all, many of these migrants do not intend to stay in that region of the U.S. They would like to go on to larger metropolitan areas like New York City and these other cities in the U.S. To live there with family or friends, or because they know they have more support there. And so this, in many ways, is beneficial to migrants. But, the new administration is stressing that they will make sure that this program is voluntary.
Right. And a difference between sending it through the normal channels and sending it just dropping it in on Democratic states in the middle of the night. Let me ask you a little report card, Camilla. Nearly 2 years ago, President Biden issued an executive order to create a new framework for addressing immigration. He promised that part of that would be expanding asylum eligibility. That hasn't happened. Why has that not happened?
Well, John, these regulations address a very complicated and complex area of asylum law, but effectively they would make it easier for certain migrants, including victims of gang and domestic violence, to get asylum. And this is something that President Biden commissioned during his second week in office, and he told the Department of Justice and Homeland Security to issue these regulations before November of 2021, but that has not happened, and we learned through our reporting that that's because administration officials have disagreed over how generous these regulations should be. And we also learned that some officials in the administration have expressed concern about making additional migrants eligible for asylum and making it harder for the government to deport them, while the administration is trying to project this message, Don, that it wants to reduce unlawful migration, that it wants to reduce these very high numbers of migrant encounters along the border. And that's really part of this broader tension between the president's very ambitious promises to overturn Trump-era restrictions on asylum and immigration with the very dire situation at the U.S.-Mexico border and the political backlash that has ensued over what has happened there.
Camila Montoya Galvez in Washington, thank you.
Thank you, John.